Man has visited the moon and sent his spacecraft to Venus and Mars and to Jupiter. Now preparations are being made for further manned exploration. The Skylab, 3 astronauts in an orbiting laboratory space station, testing man's ability to survive long space travel. NBC News has been the leader in space coverage since the early Mercury flights. Rely on NBC News for complete coverage of Skylab-1.
Coverage of the Skylab launch starts Monday at 10:20 a.m.
Aboard the vehicle, we continue to aim for a liftoff time of 1:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Now, T-minus 9 minutes, 45 seconds and counting. This is Kennedy Launch Control.
NBC News presents the launch of Skylab-1.
Good day from the Kennedy Space Center. In about 5 minutes, the United States will attempt the first half of its first double launch since way back in the Gemini program. Out there on the right of your screen, Skylab-1, a giant Saturn V rocket which will hoist this country's first space station into orbit. Perched on top, Skylab itself, literally big as a house, a 3-bedroom house, in fact, the biggest thing ever put into space by man. And about 1.5 miles away, on the left of your screen there, Skylab-2, to go up tomorrow with the 3-man crew who will board the space station for 28 days, and that would be man's longest venture into space. The launch vehicle, a Saturn 1B, of 2/3 the size of the Saturn V, and with only 1 manned launch under its belt. I'm Walter Cronkite, and with me here is Wally Schirra, who participated in this country's very first double launch of Gemini 7 and 6, that was, back in 1965, Wally. And you also participated in that only manned launch of the Saturn 1B. We'll talk more of that later. The space program has come a very long way since then. It now stands on the very edge of a new and most important phase. The emphasis moving from exploration to the exploitation of space for a variety of scientific and technical purposes and reasons. And Wally and I will be reporting this for you in just a moment.
CBS News presents a special report, Skylab-1, 4 weeks in space. Here again is CBS News correspondent Walter Cronkite.
And it's 1:40 seconds before the launch of that big Saturn V launch rocket. Up on top of it, a giant shroud covers much of the Skylab itself, weighing 13 tons. That shroud protects the telescope mount and other sensitive parts during passage through the Earth's atmosphere into orbit some 269 miles up. After separation from the booster rocket, Skylab is in orbit and pitches over to face the Earth. From then on, the big shroud is jettisoned. It reveals the telescope mount and the dock to which the Apollo spacecraft bringing the crew will be hitched. This is the pitch over as it faces the Earth. And that shroud is jettisoned. And there's the telescope mount. It's got to itself be turned, as you can see, 90 degrees there, swinging into position to face the sun. The solar panels then are deployed. They generate the electric power for the long mission. And finally, Skylab's flying in the proper position and ready for tomorrow's arrival of the astronauts, Charles Pete Conrad, Paul Weitz, and Dr. Joseph Kerwin. Those 3 astronauts, fellow astronauts of yours, Wally, are going to watch this launch from the crew quarters about 3 miles across Merritt Island here. I think both Conrad and Weitz have their wives with them. They're permitted with them, even though the isolation is on at this point. And let's listen to mission control for a moment.
8. We have ignition sequence has started. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And we have liftoff. The Skylab lifting off the pad now, moving up. Skylab has cleared the tower.
5 seconds. All right, 30 pushed clear of clouds. That's about while it was it's a beautiful flight. That's the last one, Phil. The last Saturn V launch crash ever was the biggest launch vehicle man has ever built. That was 8.5 million pounds of thrust, and there isn't anything else like that on Earth or in the heavens. That seems to be about all we're going to see of it. We thought that maybe the tracking cameras would pick it up.